Are you tired when you wake up in the morning? Is your sex drive low? Do you need that glass of wine at night to chill out? If the answer is yes to all of that and more, the internet may tell you you have adrenal fatigue. But if you go to your doctor, they'll likely tell you that isn't a real condition. So which is it? That's the topic of this episode.
We unpack the science behind adrenal fatigue, talk through the various symptoms, unveil what's actually going on in your body that's spurring these symptoms, and share what works to get your body back on track. Let's dive in.
Carolyn, today's episode is a little controversial in the medical world.
Yeah.
But it's one of those that if you have spent, especially if you're in our age range, if you've spent any time on social media looking at health content, you have probably heard of adrenal fatigue.
Yeah, especially if you follow any of the big functional medicine doctors like Will Cole or Mark Hyman or, some of those people. You've probably seen that term, adrenal fatigue, pop up a lot, and you probably wondered what it is. But, if you went to your doctor and said, I think I have adrenal fatigue, your doctor may say that's not a real thing. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So we're talking about adrenal fatigue today, and we're going to first tackle why it is somewhat controversial because, I really hate it when traditional medicine just takes a very black and white look and says, no, this doesn't exist, that kind of thing. And so I kind of had a negative view on how traditional medicine was looking at adrenal fatigue. So I really wanted to dive in and understand the controversy. Because the other thing is I didn't want to present something to our listeners that really didn't exist. Mm-hmm. So I started looking into the controversy, and seems the problem is not, so adrenal fatigue is a term more for symptoms that occur in the body that you experience when you've undergone prolonged stress. And we're going to talk about that more. It has to do with cortisol and affects that long-term cortisol being secreted has on your body. So what happens in quote-unquote adrenal fatigue is real. There's real science, physiological science. What occurs is real to cause those symptoms.
It's just not called adrenal fatigue.
Right. But the traditional medicine community does not like that term because it's symptoms. It is not a diagnosis. It is not a condition. So they don't like labeling these symptoms fatigue as adrenal fatigue because the thing is there's a real root issue that's causing this adrenal fatigue.
Yeah.
So it's almost like they don't like the term because it's symptoms, it's not a disease. And if you just said, oh, she has adrenal fatigue, that really could stop you from looking further into, okay, what is the root cause of this adrenal fatigue?
Right.
Did that confuse people, or did that make sense?
So what they need to do, or not what they need to do, what physicians want to be able to do is not just say, oh, it's adrenal fatigue, let's do this. They want to understand what's causing it and what is happening physiologically that's leading someone down this path. And when you look, maybe we should go through the symptoms of what, adrenal fatigue is, because when you look at the list of symptoms that could present, I can look at them as a non, MD and say, oh, these are related to, these could easily be symptoms of something else.
Yeah.
Very easily. And
you and I were looking at the list, and we're about to share that list with y'all, but we were like, this could be symptoms of iron deficiency. This could be symptoms of maybe hypothyroid, cancer, that kind of thing. So let's talk about the symptoms associated with adrenal fatigue. Now, you don't necessarily have all of these, but it's kind of a collection of some. So feeling tired when you wake up or feeling slower to get started in the morning. Now, we all have certain days where we struggle to get going or we didn't get enough sleep.
I would really love to meet a parent, especially a mother in our age range, that doesn't suffer from moving slowly first thing in the morning. Just putting that out there.
Yeah. But I think what this is referring to, or I know what this is referring to, because in hindsight, I did go through a phase of adrenal fatigue. And I'll share a little more about that as we go through this. But what this is referring to is when you get plenty of sleep, you get good quality sleep at night, night after night for the most part, and you still wake up tired. And it's a very frustrating feeling. So it's like, even though you get good quality sleep and you're doing what you should in terms of sleep, you still wake up tired. Mm-hmm. You don't feel refreshed. Mm-hmm. Okay, this one is interesting to me, this symptom. You have maybe stronger cravings for salty or sugary foods. Mm-hmm. A greater need for caffeine to get going, and then possibly a greater need for alcohol to later chill out. Mm-hmm. So you need stimulants or depressants to get you going, and then you've got to have something to chill you out. And I definitely had that. Mm. Yeah. Like I just couldn't, I needed a glass of wine to
mellow out
from the day.
Got it.
I couldn't disconnect or didn't feel like I could. Okay. Low sex drive, fatigue in the afternoon. I mean, who doesn't have that?
I know, right?
Some people get a second wind in the evening. Like they're kind of tired all day and then they get a second wind. Inability to stay asleep. Again, that could just be perimenopause.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Dizziness when standing up quickly, afternoon headaches, blood sugar issues, chronic inflammation, weak nails and brittle hair, moodiness, difficulty losing weight, and mental fatigue. So that could be like you have trouble focusing, getting tasks done. You're low motivation, brain fog, that type of thing. So I can see why these symptoms could relate to so many different things. Could be caused by so many different things.
Half of them describe perimenopause.
Yeah. So I see why the medical community is like, no, we don't want people to think adrenal fatigue is a condition because it's symptoms that are caused by something else.
Right.
I will say the ones that I had these symptoms, because some of these sound like just being stressed, but I realized I was at a point where this was more than just being stressed. And I had that feeling tired when you wake up, even when you get a good night of sleep. Needing greater need for caffeine and then need for alcohol to chill out. Definitely had that. Inability to stay asleep was one.
I know that there's no way you got a second wind in the evening.
No. Difficulty losing weight. I could maintain, but I could not lose. And then, of course, I just had very low motivation, almost kind of apathy, that kind of thing. So what we're going to talk about is why adrenal fatigue occurs, how to know if you might be susceptible to it, or maybe you may listen to this and think in hindsight you had it, realize you had it too. And then what the best approaches are for addressing it. So first things first, we're talking about this thing called adrenal fatigue. What are the adrenals? What are the adrenal glands?
Yeah, where are they?
These are little teeny tiny glands, and they sit on top of the kidneys. I'd kind of forgotten that until I was researching this article. They sit on top of the kidneys, and they essentially produce several hormones, some essential hormones, and one of those being cortisol.
Oh,
I know.
We have a love-hate relationship with that cortisol.
I know. People, you say cortisol, and people usually, have a very negative perspective or outlook on cortisol, because cortisol is what you typically associate with being secreted when you're under stress. Mm-hmm. And continued cortisol can lead to weight gain, and we'll explain why that is. But cortisol is really not a bad thing. So let me kind of explain why, because really adrenal fatigue cortisol is kind of the problem and the issue, or kind of how adrenal fatigue evolves.
So if you have adrenal fatigue, is your cortisol high or is your cortisol low? I'm going to assume it's high.
No, we're going to get to that.
Okay.
You actually, your cortisol, well, let me go through the stress response, and this will make sense. So You're stressed, okay? Your body senses something, your nervous system senses something. Like I love to take like a tiger's chasing you, like we're cavemen, that kind of thing. I love the caveman example. Your nervous system's automatically triggered. You have 2 key hormones released: adrenaline, which increases your heart rate and breathing and alertness, so you can get away. And then cortisol, and one of the main things it does is increases your blood sugar for quick energy. So again, so you can get away from the tiger. Now, this is the fight or flight response, and it is designed to be, it's life-saving, or it used to be, but it's designed to be short-term. So you get away from that tiger, you run away, and then your body, all those hormones stop being released, your body goes back to normal. Mm-hmm. Your breathing returns to normal, your heart rate decreases, your body stops putting extra glucose into the bloodstream for energy. Your body goes back to normal. It gets back to a state of balance or homeostasis. Okay, that worked great in the caveman days. And if you're ever being chased by a bad guy or something, that would still work great today. Mm-hmm. But the problem today is that most of our stressors are not quick like a tiger chasing you.
Correct. They are slow burn.
Ongoing. There are lots, and they are ongoing. They are not short-lived. So when your body gets triggered into fight or flight, that fight or flight doesn't really end, or doesn't end for a while, typically. And so those hormones, that adrenaline and cortisol, remains elevated. And so when that cortisol remains elevated, that means, remember, one of the main things cortisol does is gets your body to release glucose into the bloodstream. So you have circulating blood, your blood sugar can fuel the danger you're trying to get away from, even if it's, something today that's more mental. But because of that, you can more easily store fat. You may have greater cravings. That's why a lot of people associate cortisol with kind of belly fat or gaining weight when you're stressed or having sugar cravings, that kind of thing. So this is not good. So staying in fight or flight is not good, and this can go on a while. We've probably all been in states where ongoing stress, just never felt like it ended for several weeks or a period of time, that kind of thing. And that's not good, because that causes your heart rate to stay elevated, which can cause your blood pressure to go up, which I did have when I was going through that period of stress. Yeah. And it also increases your risk of diabetes and insulin resistance, because you have the higher blood sugar, weight gain, hormone imbalances, and then heart disease as well. Now, one of the things that I learned, and this kind of all ties into a lot of the inflammation research that I used to do, or I still do, but your fight or flight response is really a combination of 3 systems in your body working. It's your endocrine system, which are your hormones, it's your nervous system, and it's your immune system, or they're all connected in there. And so you've got this cortisol and other hormones remaining elevated. So this affects your endocrine system. So it starts, the longer it goes on, your hormones get out of whack. It becomes dysregulated. Your nervous system is a little out of whack because it's in constant fight or flight. So, because those 2 systems are connected with the immune system, you're going to see they almost start, what am I trying to do? I'm making a triangle. They,
an issue in one of those systems causes an issue in the two others, if that makes sense.
And so it's just like this like continuous feedback loop.
Yes. So this nervous system dysregulation, hormone dysregulation starts to affect the immune system, triggers inflammation. It's also why if you've been stressed for a while, you're more susceptible to get sick, you know? Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So anyway, none of that is good. You start to get low-grade inflammation and anyway, so that's not good. But sometimes this stress sticks around even longer.
Right.
For a even longer period of time, several months, maybe a year, just something you cannot stop or alleviate. And this is when stress starts to turn into what some people refer to it as burnout or kind of the exhaustion stage. And you start to see sleep disruption, maybe some digestive changes, anxiety, weight fluctuations, that kind of thing. But what you also start to see as you get into burnout is cortisol dysregulation. So what that means is your cortisol has been high and your adrenals can't keep up anymore. They're like, we are tired. We cannot keep up with this crazy level of stress you're having. We are tired. And your cortisol levels actually kind of crash or go down because they just can't keep up with the cortisol load that they've been making. And so that's when you kind of hit this exhaustion or burnout. And this is what's referred to as adrenal fatigue. So, so you were asking, like, what happens with your cortisol? Well, you can go through an extended period of stress and your cortisol is going to remain elevated, but at a certain point, your body can't keep up that stress response or it just takes a toll on the body.
Yeah.
And the adrenals get tired and they stop making as much cortisol and your cortisol kind of bottoms out or levels out way lower than it should be. So that's when you start to get the adrenal fatigue. And basically, like, your body's just worn out. Your nervous system's worn out. Your endocrine system's worn out. Your immune system's worn out. You've got lots of chronic inflammation at this point. Probably lots of free radicals from all the, just oxidative damage and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And your body's just not in a good state.
Yeah.
It just kind of needs some rehab.
Yeah.
And so, again, adrenal fatigue is considered the symptoms because adrenal fatigue isn't the real cause of what's occurring in your body.
Right.
It's going to be a stressor, and that stressor may be a physical stressor, it may be pain, it may be emotional, it may be environmental, but you've got to find the stressor. And so that's why, people say adrenal fatigue doesn't exist as a condition or disease.
Well, because you can't fix the adrenals if you don't deal with whatever is fueling the cortisol problem.
Right. And so here's what else happens is when you have this cortisol dysregulation, when you're in this burnout stage, your cortisol and your melatonin levels in your body get dysregulated. So in a healthy person, what happens is your cortisol levels increase in the morning. This is good because it helps you wake up and get going. Mm-hmm. And slowly during the day, they decline during the day, which is good as you're tapering down towards night. Now, what happens with melatonin? Melatonin helps you induces sleep. So melatonin, what's supposed to happen is it's going to be low in the morning, which enables you to wake up. And then it will slowly rise and peak towards night to help you go to sleep.
Yeah, the complete opposite of cortisol.
Yes. So when you are in adrenal fatigue, your cortisol is usually too low in the morning, so you can't get going. You feel fatigued, even if you got a good night's sleep. And then it will go up at night. It's too high at night. So you can't chill out. That's maybe why some people get a second wind, that type of thing. Now, what also happens is cortisol and melatonin have indirect effects on each other. So if cortisol is low in the morning, melatonin's going to be high in the morning.
Right.
Which means...
And then they're going to flip.
And then they're going to flip, which is not good at all. You have nothing working in your favor at that point when it comes to the hormones that get you going or chill you out. So that's really what happens. So, but the real root issue, you can't fix the adrenal glands because they're not the issue.
Yeah.
You know? And they say that really it's the brain, it's the brain's communication that communicates with the adrenal glands. And so it's really kind of some messed up wiring or messages in the brain that are due to all the inflammation and all the stress you've had that are, that have triggered the adrenals to release so much cortisol, and now the adrenals have just quit. So they refer to that connection between the brain and the pituitary and the adrenals as the HPA axis, and we've talked a little about that. But that's kind of how your body keeps everything in check, kind of everything moving, or just kind of your nervous system, endocrine, that kind of stuff keeps things going, and how your brain communicates with the different organs in your body. So it's more kind of, adrenal fatigue really kind of comes down to kind of an HPA axis issue. And it's really just due to too much way overload of stress for an extended period of time.
Yeah.
So they kind of say adrenal fatigue is more of a communication breakdown, not adrenal failure. If that makes sense.
So how do you fix that communication problem?
So,
because there are a lot of supplements out there
there are.
that suggest that they will support your adrenal system, your adrenal. I think they are literally in some instances called adrenal support.
And I just kind of did a broad overview of what's most important to do. We may want to go back in a later episode and really kind of drill down into adrenal supplements.
Yeah.
I didn't get a chance to really pull individual research studies on specific supplements or minerals or that kind of thing. But, okay, so what you need to do, and I hate telling people this because... I'll just go ahead and say it. You've got to figure out how to lower your stress. Mm-hmm. You've got to figure out how to alleviate some of that chronic stress that is occurring, or at least dial it down a couple of notches.
Yeah.
So stress management is really key. And the hard part is that stressor may still be there.
Yeah.
So I think it's more a fact of accepting okay, this is going to be life as I know it for a little longer. So I've got to figure out what I can do in the meantime to dial it back some.
Yeah.
So, I was reading an article by Mark Hyman. He was like, basically, you just need to chill out. I was like, well, I feel like that's easier for guys to do than girls. But one of the things it said, you'll love this, spend more time outdoors.
I love some time outdoors.
Yeah. And we've done an episode on how the green color outside really chills you out.
Grounding as well.
Mm-hmm, grounding.
Bare feet in the grass.
Yeah.
At the beach, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Find activities that calm your mind, which I feel like that's going to be vastly different for people.
Yeah.
Very different. The infrared sauna was helpful for me on several levels, but one of the reasons was it really just chilled my mind out.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the heat just kind of enveloped you and just chilled my mind out. And that is what I needed. Epsom salt baths can be good. So just finding things too that really kind of calm your body.
Yeah. It takes some self-awareness to understand what truly helps with your stress. And I think you and I are great examples of we have some very different things. I find being outside gardening can be really helpful. That's not going to do it for you.
Yeah. Well, I hate to admit it, but going outside is good for me.
Well, yes, going outside, but I mean it's yes.
That's not my first inclination.
Correct.
Yeah. Well, it's some people love yoga. Yoga would not work for me.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it's very individual. Okay, from a nutrition standpoint, all this stress has triggered low-level chronic inflammation. So an anti-inflammatory diet, working in lots of those fruits and vegetables with the antioxidants that can tackle the free radicals that are being created. Your spices, like your turmeric, your cinnamon, that kind of thing, your healthy fats, just getting all of those good anti-inflammatory foods in. And then eating to kind of help keep your blood sugar stable can also help.
Yeah.
So, getting more protein at each meals and dialing down the refined carbs and increasing the fiber. Okay, exercise. Gentle or, moderate exercise is beneficial, can relieve stress. But you probably don't want to do strenuous exercise because your body can see that as another stressor.
Right.
Almost too taxing.
Yeah. But hold on for a minute, because you and I have had this conversation. I have also had this conversation with some other people at the gym. And so you turned to bar, right?
Yeah.
Because that was not going to push your
Yeah.
system into a state of stress.
It also shut my mind down too. So it kind of,
There you go.
yeah.
I've talked to some people at the gym where they can't do a HIIT style workout, but they can still lift heavy.
Yeah.
And that doesn't stress their body in the same way. So I think this is also one where, and you go back to yoga, like you had said, yoga doesn't work for you, where people need to spend a little time thinking about, what does work for them.
Yeah.
When I was stressed last year, I found that, or was it last year or the year before? I can't remember, that running exacerbated my stress response.
You did.
But walking and even lifting heavy did not.
Yeah.
So it is definitely you have to play with it a little bit.
And I would think for me, strenuous, I used to love some cardio. I mean, I went to college in the 90s. I love some cardio. I like extended cardio. That was what was seen as, anything that wears your body out to a point where your body's kind of having to rehab itself after that workout.
Yeah.
I think that's when your body is like, oh, this is turning from a good stress to a bad stress.
Right.
In there. But yeah, it definitely varies. Some supplements that might be considered, well, you've got your anti-inflammatory ones. If you're not on vitamin D, guys, you should be. Mm-hmm. It is key, especially with stress and the chronic inflammation stress induces, because vitamin D it's a modulator or regulator. It kind of tries to keep the immune system on track or get it back on track.
Yeah.
To normal functioning,
Yeah.
and you really need that. Some people love turmeric. Omega-3s can be good for inflammation. Some others, and we've touched on some of these in past episodes, but adaptogens may help. Mm-hmm. And if you remember, these were botanicals that are specifically designed to increase your body's resilience to stress. Did I get that right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And ashwagandha is probably the one we did a whole episode on ashwagandha.
Yes.
And it can be good when just starting it at any time and taking it long term. It can help just overall your body's reaction to stress. But I think when you're already stressed, my understanding, ashwagandha may still help, but also other ones like rhodiola may be more beneficial when you're already in that kind of depleted state.
Yeah.
Already. But
the thing too about adaptogens that listeners should keep in mind is that you can't be inconsistent with taking them. You have to build it up in your system and then be consistent about continuing to take it.
Yeah.
To really reap the benefits.
Yeah. We were talking to somebody the other day. Oh, I think it was
Les.
our producer, and he was like, I've been taking ashwagandha every day for 60 days. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't even try ashwagandha because I was like, I don't know if I can be that consistent.
Yeah.
To make it actually work.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And then there's one more tip.
Yeah. Well, you need sleep, but you also want to try to slowly get your circadian rhythms back, which means get your melatonin levels where they start getting higher at night.
And they're low in the morning.
Yeah, and the opposite for cortisol. And so I was reading some stuff, and it said get into a regular routine, like try to go to bed at the same time every night, around the same time, get up around the same time in the morning. Getting some natural light outside, even if it's just for a few minutes in the morning, can be really good because that lowers your melatonin. So just consistency around that, which again, all this is much easier said than done when you're in a stressful situation. But that's really what it goes back to. And then, of course, these symptoms can be related to so many things. If you have them, you still need to go to the doctor and make sure there is nothing else going on in your body.
Yeah.
That could be causing or contributing to how you're feeling.
Right.
And I think that's probably where the medical community's issue comes with.
Yes. Which completely
labeling.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
But also, one other thing that I think is important to say is that you gave us a list of some really fantastic ways to tackle this chronic stress and recover from it in an effort to do that and not add more stress to your life. Just pick like one or two things and just be consistent about it. And, I think that you, like, I remember some of the things that you did, and one of them was the infrared sauna. You became very almost religious about it. You changed your exercise, and then you did start doing some adaptogen supplement support. And you might have done other things that I was not aware of, but I remember those three things where like you really swore, like you committed yourself to them.
Yeah.
And it made a difference.
I think it's because I could tell a noticeable difference, particularly with the exercise and the infrared sauna. And so, when you get some feedback from your body that is helping. You know. I will say, I'm going to admit here, probably the area that I really slacked in is the nutrition area.
Fair.
Because I just had to pick, like you said, certain areas, and I could tell the effects from the infrared sauna and the workouts and the supplements I were taking were making the biggest difference at that time. Not that nutrition wouldn't have helped, but making the biggest difference. And like when you're in that kind of state, like you can only take on so much.
Exactly.
I didn't eat horrible.
No, you naturally don't ever eat a terrible diet, but
I wasn't eating to improve things. Let's say that.
That's fair. But once you give your body enough like feedback and you see a little bit of the benefit, I mean, that's always encouraging, and that really helps people double down on their, new habits and maintaining them.
One of the reasons I really wanted to cover this is because I think, there's probably a lot of women there's probably a lot of women listening who are looking back and thinking, oh, that was me when I went through that stage or whatever in life. And I feel like a lot of these symptoms can get written off as like, oh, it's in your head. Oh, just get a good night's sleep. Oh, like, and this is much bigger. This is your body truly being like in a burnout stage, not a mental burnout, like a physical kind of burnout. And I feel like, and I think that's one of my issues with in the past has been with the medical society not, taking the term adrenal fatigue seriously, is it felt like, until I looked into it for this episode, it felt like they were saying, oh, those symptoms are kind of in your head,
Yeah.
Go to a yoga class and you'll be fine.
Right. Yes, exactly.
Yes. So they're not in your head if you have these. Do make sure you go to your doctor to make sure nothing else is going on.
Correct.
And there's a reason why it's occurring, and you kind of just have to rehab your body in a way.
Yeah, exactly. But you gave us some great tips. You explained it. I love the fact that, we were able to say, hey, the medical community might not recognize this fully, but here's what could be going on.
Yeah.
So thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for joining us for the Happy Eating Podcast. I'm Brierley Horton.
And I'm Carolyn Williams. If you liked this week's episode, then don't forget to rate and leave us a review on iTunes. And be sure to hit the subscribe button so you'll never miss a new episode.
We can't wait to have you back at our table next week for a brand new episode. Bye.
The contents discussed in the Happy Eating Podcast, such as advice, studies, text, graphics, images, and other material discussed or presented on the site or podcast, are for informational purposes only. Content is not intended to be a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your mental health professional or other qualified health providers with any questions you may have regarding your condition. Never disregard professional advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard on the Happy Eating Podcast.
If you are in crisis or think you may have an emergency, call your doctor or 911 immediately. If you're having suicidal thoughts, call 1-800-273-TALK, that's 8255, to talk to a skilled trained counselor at the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. If you are located outside the United States, call your local emergency line immediately.